Hey everyone, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about something that might sound boring, but it's actually super important and super interesting. It is super relevant to defending the Bible against atheistic claims. And that is the oldest Hebrew script and language. So for those who don't know, here's the argument. A lot of people try to argue that Moses could not have written down the Torah, that there could not have been a written copy of the Ten Commandments given by God at Mount Sinai. Their argument is that the Israelites at this time did not have a written language. God would not have been able to write something down for these people, and if he did, it would have been totally irrelevant. However, there are a lot of people who tried to argue that no, there was literacy at the time, and they point to the fact that there is a Paleo Hebrew script and a Canaanite script that's clearly preceded the Hebrew language of King David. At the time of David, we have not found any writings that clearly date that are Hebrew from the time of David. I actually think that might be challenged, but there's not that much of it. So there's a lot of questions about how literate the people of the time of, say, King David even were. So let's see what this article has to say um, about this. Christopher Rowland examines the Huyafa Austercon at Gezer calendar and other candidates for the oldest known Hebrew inscription. The Gezer calendar, that's like a Canaanite calendar. So yeah, for those who don't know, Hebrew is essentially, in many ways, a dialect of ancient Canaanite. Certainly as far as writing goes. In Biblical Archaeology Reviews, What's the Oldest Hebrew Inscription? Epigraphy scholar Christopher Rowland asks a seemingly straightforward question. What is the oldest Hebrew inscription? His examination requires him to address the fundamental question of epigraphy. That's like study of writing. And a text written in Hebrew script is a text written in Hebrew script necessarily in the Hebrew language? That seems like a silly question, but think about it. Like, technically, we use the Latin alphabet that the Romans used. We don't. English uses the Latin alphabet, but its script is not Latin. It's a completely different language. And was the Hebrew language originally written in an alphabet that predates Hebrew script? So maybe could it be possible that Hebrew language may have originally been written using a different alphabet or something like that before? So I'll give you an example. This would have been ancient Greek. So for example, I believe the Minoan. For example, we know the ancient Greeks. They had first used the Minoan script, then they lost the tradition of writing. But later on, they adopted the Phoenician alphabet, which is essentially the ancestry alphabet they use today, and it's the same language. They can, I think it's Linear B that they can read now. That's Greek. It's the same language, but it's a different. It's written with a different alphabet. It's like imagine if you write English, but using writing Chinese characters. So they argue maybe this is what's going on with Hebrew. Christopher Owens examined four contenders for the oldest Hebrew inscription: Yafa Osterkon, the Gezer calendar, Zelzet Amidari, and Ibit Zayet Abin Like, I can't pronounce this yet, I'll learn. Don't worry. To explore the interplay between early Hebrew script and language. In his study, Christopher Rollins distinguishes between purely Hebrew script and other visually similar alphabets. Again, think about it like Hebrew script is originally Phoenician. While examining relation between alphabets and languages, not only can a single language be written in various scripts, but a single script can be used for dozens of languages. Again, Phoenician alphabet eventually evolved into the Hebrew alphabet, the Greek alphabet, and the Latin alphabet. And the Latin alphabet is used by the French-speaking world, Spanish-speaking world, the English-speaking world, Portuguese-speaking world. English shares the Latin script with most Western languages. Finding Latin letters does not necessarily mean that that text is English. So again, if you found Hebrew letters, doesn't mean it's Hebrew. Old Hebrew script derived directly from Phoenician, and as I said before, and Christopher Rolston contends that Hebrew script did not split off from its Phoenician predecessor until the 9th century BCE. The Hebrew language existed well before then. The oldest extant Hebrew language texts are recorded in Phoenician script. Identifying the oldest combination of Hebrew script and language and is hindered by a diverse set of complications, including poor condition of text. Like, it's old writing. Like, people think faded text you wrote on a piece of paper from last week is hard. Like, these are thousands of years old. The existence of cognates, regional variation, and partial language preservation, limited number of artifacts, and a myriad of other difficulties. So, like, regional variation. Like, so think about even in English today. I'll give you a minor example: zebra or zebra, or Canadian English versus American English. There's really not that much aside from a little bit of slang, but even writing, there is difference between Canadian English and American English. Like, we have Canadian English uses more U's, like among has a U in it in Canadian English, not in American English, even though it's pronounced the same. Just to give an example, regional variation. So that's, and also languages change over time. The Koyafa Ostrakhan and Gezer calendar are the best known contenders that Christopher Rolston examines. A five-line Koyafa Ostrakhan has garnered a great deal of attention since its 2008 excavation at Kabir Kayafa, the fortified 10th century BC Judite city. Ooh, that might be interesting. So, Kabir Kayafa, here's why that's important. You've heard the story of David and Goliath? That's where it is. That's where Kabir Kayafa is. That they found a stone, and the 10th century BCE, that is the time of David. So this stone, this Ostrakhan is from the time of David and Goliath at the place where David fought Goliath, is where it was found. Located at the border between of Judah and Philistia. The faded text on the, I think I know what this Ostrakhan is, actually. I want to see if I remember correctly. The faded text on the Koyafa Ostrakhan has changed potential translators. What is known is that its variations, left to right orientation, signal a pre-Hebrew script deriving from early alphabetic rather than Phoenician writing. Most scholars agree with Christopher Rolston. I didn't know that about that Ostrakhan. So maybe there was maybe its own writing. Again, I don't know much about Hebrew writing as of yet. Hopefully we'll learn more in the future. So, like, did the Hebrews have their own alphabet and it just got replaced by Phoenician? Most scholars agree with Christopher Rolston about the type of script, but he suggests that the language may not be Hebrew. Lexemes, or word roots, could come from one of several Semitic languages. So he arguing this is not Hebrew. This interpretation of the Koyafa Ostrakhan raises a new set of questions. Could the Koyafa Ostrakhan be from a non-Judite site? And here's another question: if it's not, and in some ways, it's not that surprising. Like, it would have been sent. Like, it could have been sent as a letter, something like that. Even if it was a Judite location, because it is on the border of Judah and Philistia. So, like, that being said, who could have written it? Could another language have been the lingua franca of the period? In other words, could they be speaking different language? Like today, like at the time of Jesus, they weren't speaking Hebrew. They were speaking Aramaic. Or simply, could the text have been imported from elsewhere? That's another suggestion. Written by a foreigner. Maybe it's not Hebrew. Or maybe it is Hebrew. It's just a strange variation of it. We're still debating it. We don't know. The Koyafa Ostrakhan is a significant puzzle piece development of Hebrew writing. There are still too many unanswered questions for the Koyafa Ostrakhan to be considered the oldest Hebrew inscription. So it might not even be Hebrew. Could be, though we don't know. The Gezer calendar, okay, now we're talking Canaanite, is a small limestone tablet listing seasonal agricultural activities in 7 lines of 7 uneven letters. Scholarly opinion on the Gezer calendar have shifted over the past century of scholarship. In 1943, William Foxwell Albright stated that the Gezer calendar is written in perfect classical Hebrew. More recent scholarship questioned the idea that the Gezer calendar has distinctively Hebrew script or language. So they thought it was Hebrew, but maybe not. Christopher Ralston contends that there is no lexeme or linguistic feature in the Gezer calendar that can be considered distinctively Hebrew. Also, location of Gezer is like I forget. I'm not sure when this calendar, no pun intended, dates from. I still have to learn a lot to learn. But it could have been because it could have been Hebrew at a later date. It could have been Canaanite. Joseph Nava says that no specifically Hebrew characters can be distinguished. Christopher Rolston concludes that the Gezer calendar is written in Phoenician rather than Hebrew script. Though the late 10th or early 9th century BCE includes elements described by Frank as the first rudimentary innovations that will mark the emergent Hebrew script. So it starts. So late 10th or early 9th century BCE. So like time of Solomon actually. That is when that would have roughly would have been. So like what was also asked the question, what would the original Ten Commandments have actually looked like? Ralston continues his analysis on some other contenders, the oldest Hebrew inscription. He finds Tel Zayat Abicenary to be fully Phoenician script, despite excavation epigraphers claiming that the Abicenary indicates that the translation between scripts. Finally, the oldest contender, the Ibzet Sarata Abicenary, which dates to roughly 1200 BCE, predates the development of any Hebrew script and appears to be written in early alphabetic script, which is not so closely related to Hebrew script, Old Hebrew script. Well, some scholars have presented the so that's like Moses Joshua, roughly speaking. That's how old it is, which is not close. No, I think that would be the Judges period actually, if I recall correctly. Yeah, Judges. I yeah, it's too late. I think that is again like people debate when the Exodus exactly would have taken place. Some people would put it there, others a bit later. Some people put the Exodus there, others would have put the Exodus much later, which is not close to the Hebrew script. Well, some scholars have presented these other Iron Age 1 inscriptions as Hebrew script. Ralston suggests that we have to look at a slightly later period to find the first Hebrew language recorded in a purely Hebrew script. So, in other words, like it sounds like a long scholarly article, but like this does actually have a lot of bearing on like if you were looking to find the original copy of the Ten Commandments, what would you expect to find the writing to look like? Taking forever to load. Like this, I suppose. So that's like so that what would the Ten Commandments have looked like? If David wrote a letter, what language would he have written it in? Like okay, Hebrew, yeah, what kind of Hebrew? It's like even with English, if you listen to English from like 1,000 years ago, people sing songs in Old English. It sounds more like German than what we would think of as English today. And Hebrew has undergone similar developments, is what they're saying based on the archaeological evidence. Anyway, it's quite relevant because, again, like, you need writing to write the Bible. And all those nuances will be quite relevant if you could find passages of scripture. And yeah, I actually think one of the Oscar mentions may have actually had a quotes from the Bible on it. Yeah, I think this one, the Caiapha Ostracon did, if I recall, did have potentially some. I think it does have some biblical references to it, potentially anyway. Anyway, God bless. Have a great day. If you ever get a chance to check out an SSBX Chapel, please do so, and God bless.